Oh, welcome back my gardening friends to the end of February garden allotment tours of both my allotments. This is plot 1 and we've finally got the cage done. Nice to have a nice little door, but we've removed all the strawberry runners, we moved all the wood chips out of the path into this bed, cleaned it all up, and this is now ready for the giant cabbages. And we mulched it up with some of the compost that gets unscrupulously dumped by the cannabis growers with the perlite in, and just makes it look a little bit pleasing to the eye. But we're ready to go for the giant cabbages. The blackberries are bursting into life. We get some, it's been very mild and dry here in the UK Midlands, and some of the plants have decided time to grow, but my last frost is the end of May, so we have to be very careful with what we do and plant. And moving on to the rhubarb. I do grow a lot of rhubarb, mainly so that I'll get the best opportunity of getting 3 large sticks for the Malvern show. I got a 6th place the first time I ever entered, and never done any good since, but it'll be time for these to have a liquid feed of manure or nettle to give them a boost. And I've moved all the wood to the end of this path here. I've popped it onto some pallets so it's not sitting on the floor, and I've left these bits of wood out so we can remove all the fixings just in case we need them in the future. I've managed to get some fresh silicone on the roof because the material I used that was very cheap didn't go off, did it, after it rained, and it contaminated the water. I've got rid of that contaminated water now responsibly, and hopefully now the water will run clear and fill these 4 barrels up, and then my neighbour can tap into that if he needs to. We managed to get the giant potato bed all done and dusted, got the rotavator up here, we cleared this patch, we cleared the patch with the rotavator where the wildlife garden used to be, and got loads and loads of soil out of that. I've finished cleaning up all the compost that we find and got the clay balls out, so we've got this now and this here to use on the new pallet collar beds for the giant vegetables. And the material in here will go into the last pallet collar here that go up to the comfrey, and that's still got material in. I've had to empty the material to there that used to be here before we realign this one. Seems a bit of a, what we say, a ball ache, but it did need a good mix, and it got a good mixing indeed, a shovelful at a time, and it's surprising how well it mixes just by throwing it out onto the plot. I showed you how we filled the pallet collars, and you'll find my playlist at the end for February 2023. We've got the manure in there because I wanted to get the bags back to the person who owns the horses so that she can refill them. I'm hoping to get some more pallet collars in March. I need at least 6 more. I've got 2 there, good ones to go where those small pallet collars are, and then I can reline them. I've done it differently now. I line them at the bottom, then all the weight pulls on those, and then hopefully we won't end up pulling the staples out here as the material settles, as the worms do their work, everything settles down, it just puts extra weight on that plastic, and hopefully we won't get the same issues as we've got elsewhere on the allotments with the pallet collar beds. A few bulbs coming through now, and these were the snowdrops that I had off Nick, NIC, Nick's allotment. He sent me some quite a while back, and with all the damp and that, they did start to rot off, so I've got them all planted, and this area now will be so much easier to manage, for me to manage, and all my friends who look after this growing space. Wildlife Bug Hotel took a battering over the winter, but just keep straightening it up, and hopefully there's a few creatures in there that have overwintered, and they'll come out and hopefully pollinate a lot of my fruit and vegetables. Finally got this structure done, got the centre pin along the top, and I'm just in a dilemma. I'm trying to replicate the netted cage down there where we saw for the giant cabbages, so I'm going to put a green net over the front, some pond netting 1 inch at the front. I was going to create doors, but it was going to take too much of this wood, and this roofing lath is quite expensive, so I'm just going to use a roll-up method and roll down. We're only trying to keep the birds out, not any butterflies or insects, because I want the strawberries, not the birds. This is the only fruit tree I've got left, and the buds are all coming out now. It's a conference pear, quite a nice pear off this tree, and we've put a collar around it so it doesn't damage the main trunk away from where it's been grafted on. And as you can see, all my pallet collars sit off the ground so that they don't drag any moisture up. Well worth doing. We haven't had time to do the greenhouse clean, still time to do that yet, and we also didn't have time to sift the compost for the long roots, but we'll have to get that job done fairly soon. We'll be using the spare soil, compost, whatever's in there, to add to those pallet collar beds, and we've already used some of the leaf mould rejects within those pallet collars towards the bottom. Give the worms something to have a nibble at. No signs of my four-legged furry friends that stole the bag of rat poison from out of the little cupboard, and we've had to do a little bit of maintenance on this. One of the hinges is broke. I've replaced one hinge and then noticed the middle one was broken as well, so as soon as I can find myself another hinge, I'll sort that out. But you see, the rats are good at making their way in, and they never got through that when I did that, but it's a waste of time trying to stop them. They'll get in whichever way they want to. To get to the rat poison, they made a hole there, and made a hole at the back. Naughty rats. This is the visqueen builder's membrane. That's all folded into sections, but it's the exact length, so if I want it 12 inches wide, cut it 12 inches wide, then it stretches out to fit the whole width, the length of the pallet collar on the inside. It looks like I've got to buy another roll. Didn't think I'd have to do that, but there again, I didn't think I was going to have all those pallet collars down there. It's quite chilly in the shade. Let's go back out into the sunshine. These are my manure runoff bins. There's nothing in there other than the compost that we've talked about earlier. I've almost used all this up now. I need to get it emptied so I can reuse it, and this white plastic is what the cannabis growers use to line their grow rooms, etc. So I need to get some more of that, because the black visqueen membrane does tend to break down in the sunshine. But any manure we put in there, fresh manure that is, it runs off and it goes into here, and then we move it over into the bin. That's just ordinary water. But during the pandemic, there seemed to be a lot of this material being dumped unscrupulously, so I just couldn't help myself. And I'm slowly getting down the cocoa coir as well. I want to try and empty this. I want both bins filled with manure so that I haven't got to buy anything if I can help it. As we move on to plot 3, yay, got a new gate. It didn't take long, but it's just a case of, come on, just do it. And we did. Got that sorted. Now I don't have to pull tug. Job done. So much easier. I wish I'd have done. It's been waiting 3 years. We managed to get all the 4-year-old wood chips out of the paths, took up that old membrane that was fraying and getting everywhere, and we mulched up with yes, you can see that compost. And it'd be nice now just to get some wood chips to make it look pleasing to the eye, but everything in here looks really good at the moment. Never managed to get the blueberries out. If they come to life, I'll take them out at the end of the season, and if I can afford some Hyecho compost, I'll just pop them up into pots. They apparently do better in pots. Restricts the roots, so they produce more fruit because they think they're dying. I managed to collect all the prunings from out of there. They've gone in their green recycling bin. Surprising how long that took to cut it into small pieces. It won't be long before we're opening all the beds up and applying some super soil. There'll be a link in the description when that goes out. And here's the wood chips that we've got. Nearly 700 litres or more, so it's well worth having wood chips in your path. But it's nice to be able to top up. I've not got much hope for these onions. They've got really good roots on them. They're really rooting and trying to survive. We know nature will always find a way, but has anyone ever really got anything off these once the bad weather's got to them? You'll let me know, please. Because I don't want to add fresh compost to the compost bin we saw earlier that we changed the hinge on, I copied this idea off another creator, and it's working really well. There's lots of material gone in there, and it can help top these beds up and this one before we plant out in May. And anything that isn't worth doing, we can pop back into that compost bin to break down over another 12 months. The worms do a good job in that bin. I don't hot compost if I can help it. The end of February and we've still got Brussels sprouts. And they've been nice. They've been small, but they've been nice. Fiddly, but they end up making a nice meal. The purple sprouting broccoli looks really healthy. Won't be long now before we get some sprouts off that, and I can't see the screen, but I believe there's some side shoots off that broccoli just growing, so it's well worth taking the tops out and just leaving them to see what happens. A little morsel. We managed to take 3 cuttings of some gooseberries that had rooted down. I really thinned them right out, and the Jerusalem artichokes, one pot hadn't gone rotten, so we've managed to pot up another 4. This time I'll get them off the ground so that they drain really well. We put holes in the bottom. It doesn't always work, but they should grow on nicely. None of the broad beans survived the winter. I'm hoping that the walking onions will come back. They're prettier is coming back slowly. It looks a little bit better, and we managed to top up these 2 beds ready for planting. And the parsnips and the carrots are still coming out really nice. No rat damage this year. Sorry for repeating myself to my regular viewers, but this is sifted wood chips. Absolutely lovely material to add to our growing spaces, and they can be added to our 2-year-old leaf mould or our 12-month-old homemade compost. That's what we emptied out the pots last year. Yes, that's that compost. And again, some more of the cocoa coir that gets unscrupulously dumped as well. And these are most of the trays that we find at the fly tips as well. I don't always want them for myself, but there's always somebody that would like to do a trade. So they're ideal for those cloth bags to sit them in and then water from the bottom. Did that last year in the polytunnel. And over the years, these little dumpy buckets, whatever you want to call them, which I've never bought one myself, but builders etc. put them on the backs of the trucks and they end up blowing off. So I'll give them a second use. Garlic's done fantastic, as you would expect it to. So we've got some elephant garlic on the first half, and then we've got some red Russian on the second half, and because they love the winter, it isn't a problem. The gourmet shallots there, they were my safe seed. Again, I'm not sure what they're going to do. We robbed the soil from here to pop into these tanks. I've got to fill this one up so we can get a successional sowing of carrots ongoing. So I filled that one up. It's got the wicks in. They're drawing moisture and water from the tanks below. And we planted some of the carrots. Hopefully they'll be ready by the time our carrots have finished or gone rotten in that bed there. I'm glad I bought some new Golden Gourmet shallots. These look a lot better, and I do like my homemade pickle onions. I was hoping to have more this year, but that may not happen now. But whatever I can pickle, I will. We've had some good finds in February, and these will replace the wooden bench or wooden drawers that swells up every time the wind and snow and rain pushes in. But I do need to have a good clear out in here. I was sorting through my drawers the other day, and I thought, oh, I didn't realise I got that. And those trays do come in useful to put bits and bobs on. These are the red onions that I've got growing on at home in the grow room. I'll get them put out as soon as I get a bit of time, perhaps during a mild spell. And the same with the crimson broad beans that I had off Marie Curry. Very lucky enough, we managed to get a lot of the potatoes that we were growing that I overwinter. They weren't all rotten. There was a few, quite a few really, but in every bucket I managed to save some of each variety, and those are on the previous videos. This bed here will be for the giant vegetables also, so again we've robbed the soil out of it. This soil has had manure in it in 2021, ready for the 2022 season, so this will be transferred over to here, and my fresh compost mix will go in here. We've managed to get all the windows in now, not fully, but I managed to get this one done completely. So these windows now slide. I've still got to put the wooden battens on the outside to hold that green plastic on. It stopped. I forgot all about it, and luckily enough the material hasn't teared. I've still got to put the handles on, etc., and then we'll be ready to bend these blue water pipes down, secure them. I'm hoping to bring them down and then slide the plastic over the top and then push the plastic pipe back up again, but we'll see. I'll try, as long as I can get that done before mid-April, when we start popping things in here. But once it's double skinned, it might be a lot warmer anyway. I'm hoping to do some overwintering with different bits of staging here that folds down. We can grow here then in the summer, then fold it up and have a watering system along here, fed from these barrels outside. We'll see what happens. Let's see how busy I get. Video's running on a bit. These are the underground worm farms. So please leave me a comment. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down for the interaction, and consider subscribing. This material's well, it's quite wet actually as well, and it's a bit cold, so the worms have probably disappeared, but that's breaking down nicely. Happy gardening to you all. Till next time, my friends. Ta-ra for now.